Om. Namaste to all. We are continuing this practical Krishna series, and today we are going to look at our stolen identity. As the title should pique our curiosity, why should Krishna's story have a connection with our stolen identity? If the title has evoked such a thought in our mind, then we are in the right room. All of us know that we all have come across some sort of identity theft. Somebody else impersonates us, somebody else takes our identity for stealing or for doing whatever nefarious activities. So, this is something which we know as of today, but this was found even back in the day. So, we are going to refer to an incident in Srimad Bhagavatam, Dasama Skanda, that is the 10th Skanda, the 66th Adhyaya or chapter. Now, the difference between what Krishna went through and what we are going through is completely different, but both have a strong overlap of stolen identity. We are going to see how. As usual, in our typical format, we are going to look at the story first, followed by our analysis of how it is relevant and connected to us. And then towards the end, we can look at any questions or any thoughts or comments and feedback. So let's go back to Krishna in Dwaraka. Once, Balarama was thinking a lot about Gokula. There is no instance when Krishna ever goes back to Gokula. We referred about this kind of situation as Tyaga. In one of our earlier talks, we did look at Tyaga as one of the central points in our spiritual journey. But Balrama was not like that. He would get nostalgic, he would go back. He went there once and he went and stayed there a few months there. At that time, one day in the court of Ugrasena, remember who was the king of Dwarka? Not Krishna, it was Ugrasena. The same guy who was ruling Mathura was the king here too. Unlike many people's misunderstood idea, Krishna was not the king. He was just a king enabler. You can't even say he was the king maker, like how these political parties put together some dummy candidate or a remote operated person. It's not like that. The king had the full say, and Krishna respected that. Krishna was also present in this royal court, and time to time he would help the king or in any of the major requirements. If it is complex or complicated, he would step in. So one day a messenger came from a guy called Paundraka. His name was Paundraka Vasudeva. He came and said, he sent a messenger. So this fellow sorry if you are recalling any living or known politicians. We are not trying to draw comparison or parallel. I am just telling you what is in Bhagavatam. Sometimes history repeats itself, right? So this Paundraka was surrounded by sycophants, flatterers. They will tell, they will know how to feed this guy's ego. They will tell, man, you are the sun, the moon, you are the master of the universe, you are like an avatara who has come down to the earth, you are like such a cool guy. So imagine every day if somebody comes and keeps telling you that, sooner or later, if you are not a bright bulb, you will start thinking that you are like a avatar. So this guy, right from his childhood, was not the brightest thing. So everybody would come and tell him that, hey, you are the next Raja, you are the avatara, you are this, you are that. And even from a childhood, he started pretending. Like some families, dynastic families, who can't even win a decent double digit number of seats, still believe that they are the royal scion, they are this, they are that. We see that happening again, right? Because of that, we are going to see this, why this happens. But it is important for us to put a mental note on such a mindset. Now what happened? The messenger came. The messenger, like some of these messengers are like they take it to their own head. So he came and he started thundering as if he was the one who was the originator of the message. Remember, he is Yata Raja Tata Praja, right? So the Paundraka sent the message, and our messenger was literally echoing it in his words. He said, I am the real Vasudeva. I have come down to this earth because of my greatness and mercy. Okay? And this Krishna is a false Vasudeva. Remember, whose father was Vasudeva? Krishna's father. Now he says he is the real Vasudeva. He is not saying that he was Vasudeva's father, son. He was saying that he was the original divinity. And he said that Krishna somehow has taken all his personal symbols. Like, how do you tell if you and I were to wake up and suddenly find a Chaturbhuja Vishnu, right? How do you quickly tell? You are going to look at his Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, right? You are going to look at the insignia and you're going to say, hey, that is Vishnu, that is Krishna, right? So this Vasudeva said, you better surrender that immediately or else. And he tried to sweeten the deal. He said, Krishna, if you come and give it to me right now, I will consider mercy. Otherwise, we will have to face grave consequences. Now, imagine if somebody were to send a note like that to Krishna's place. What do you think would have happened? It sounds like a joke, right? So what happened? As soon as this messenger finished his dramatic message, everybody started laughing, and even the Raja could not control laughing. So everybody is busy rolling in laughter. So after some time, it took a while, right? Like sometimes you are in such a laughing mood The laughter, by the time one person finishes the laughing, another person remembers the first line or whatever and he starts laughing. So the laughter took a while to die down. And then Krishna said, okay, come here, buddy. You want these weapons, right? Tell your Raja that I will meet him in the battlefield and I will deliver all the weapons. And when I deliver the weapons, also tell him that his body will be feasted by dogs and vultures. And now the situation is very serious. So as soon as the guy left, Krishna took a small contingent. I think he took a Akshauhini Sena or something, and he started heading towards Kasi. Why he started going towards Kasi? Because our friend Paundraka was staying with Kashi Raja, who was his Jati Dost, and he would always be with the other guy. You know, like some people always go to Thailand for vacation. Some politicians disappear. So you want to find them. Where are they in India? You can't find them. You will go and find them somewhere abroad. Now what happened? Krishna came and Paundraka brought two Akshaunis of his army. And this was supported by the Kashi Raja, who brought three Akshaunis of army. That is like imagine, for we already went into what is an Akshauhini. It has so many elephants, so many chariots, so many horses, so many foot soldiers and whatnot. We went through the numbers some in one of the earlier episodes. So just think that these people had five contingents of army and Krishna had just one, and it didn't matter. Now Krishna is seeing for the very first time this Paundraka Vasudeva. This Paundraka is like a photostat copy of Krishna. He also has one Shankha. He has one Chakra. He has one Gada. He has Saranga bow. Just maybe he brought one cardboard bow which is all taped up and just like looks like Saranga. But he had. But the imitation didn't stop there. Just like Krishna had a Kaustuba money, he got some made in China cheap money and he put it in his neck. And then he put a Srivatsa mark on his chest, a fake one. And the fakery was complete. He also had a yellow silk cloth, just like Krishna. He also went and collected some forest plants, flowers, Vanamala, right? He put one. And just like Krishna had a Garuda Dvaja, that is a Garuda in his flag, he also had a Garuda Dvaja. What is even more interesting is Krishna is described with Makara Kundala. Makara is what? Crocodile. So Krishna has this. Krishna, if you want to study the fashion statement of Krishna, oh man, he is a fashion designer's dream. A lot of things what Krishna did back in the day, we are still copying. But that's a different topic for another day. If somebody is interested, if you just go and look at all the descriptions of what Krishna was doing, we are still copying till today. Till today. Whether it is by a girl or a guy, doesn't matter, but whatever trend he had set, we are still copying. So one thing is this Makara Kundala. I don't know how many of you have seen. There are shark like looking like earrings. There are tortoise looking earrings, flamingo looking earrings, Makara Kundala, right? All those things are in fashion statement today. But Krishna started that. Okay. So we will get off of the wonderful description of Krishna. But when Krishna saw this, he couldn't again stop laughing. Because Paundraka had gone to such a level to see, it is one thing if like we put this fancy dress competition, right? Like we put Krishna Janmashtami and things like that. We had Janmashtami, right? So we dress our little children as Krishna. What do? We just give them one flute, give them one peacock feather. That's it. Maybe one yellow color upper cloth. That's it. Story, right? But here we are looking at Krishna complete photocopy. If you put those two together, maybe the facial features may be different, but you can't tell which one is the original, which is the duplicate. To that level, he imitated. Okay. Now, Vasudeva, Paundraka Vasudeva was like, why did he do that? That is why we are going to analyze. Okay. Now, the enemies all came from, remember, this is a huge army, right? And Krishna is used to big armies attacking him. Remember our friend Jarasandha? We saw that episode, right? One big problem lasting for a long time. So he brought like 17 times 23 Akshaunis every time to be sent back as a lone survivor. So Krishna is used to big armies. It's not a big deal. So Krishna said like, okay, thank you for bringing this army of Asuric minded people. So he let his Gada, Chakra, his swords, arrows from the Saranga bow, all to the maximum. And those weapons were having a field day. They are like, thank you, Krishna, you are putting us to the maximum use. So they are having a field day. And then finally, Paundraka was in front of Krishna. And he said, Krishna addressed this fellow. Now, sometimes what happens, you have to address the guy before you give the message, right? So, Krishna addressed him and he told, don't worry, you wanted to have a taste of all my weapons, right? Here comes all the weapons. So, he said he will surrender and he would even give all the weapons. So, he kind of like did a fake surrender and he just gave all the weapons. And obviously, this fellow could not hold anything. The Sudarshana Chakra came and did a small detachment in his head. Remember, Kashi Raja was supporting him. Next, this fellow came in the view of Krishna. And he tried to attack Krishna with a lot of arrows. And Krishna cut his head and threw that head into the city of Kashi. Now, Paundraka Vasudeva was meditating on Krishna all the time, right? He had the very bad intention, copying Krishna, whatever. But now what happened? He got a Sayujya Mukti. Because even here he was looking like Krishna. So Krishna said, that's okay, buddy. I will take whatever you offer. All you could come up was with some cheap imitation. I will accept it. Look at the graciousness of Bhagavan, that even though he was an outright cheat, Bhagavan said, okay. Now the story continues. Suddenly, out of the blue, there was one head that was so deformed and it fell into the city. First, these people could not figure out whose head it was because they don't know. Suddenly, somewhere from the sky, one head is falling, right? And then they thought, hey, this looks familiar. And then they got the information, they could put 2 and 2 and they figured out that this was the Raja. So the Raja had a son called Sudakshina. So Sudakshina went and brought his body, father's body, and he did all the rituals and things like that. Now what he did was he called all the Upadhyayas, the priests, and he said, I want to do a meditation on Maheshwara. Tell me how can I please Maheshwara quickly. So based on their inputs, he did intense tapasya and Shiva appeared in front of him. Now, when Bhagavan himself appears in front of you, what should you have asked? You should have simply asked, Bhagavan, give me moksha or give me. But this fellow, now again, we are going to go and analyze why this happens. Okay. So instead, he said, I want to kill my father's slayer. So Krishna told, like, okay, who gave you the. Okay, obviously, Shiva knew who was this guy who was guiding him. So he told, keep this original Ritvik, the guy who did all this. Now, ask that guy to propitiate Dakshinagini through Abhichara mantras. That is, like through black magic rituals, you invoke this Dakshinagni, and all these attending, what is it, like Agni will come, and what you can do is you can carry out your mission as long as it is not a Brahmana. Okay, Abrahmanye is the word Bhagavan Shankara uses. Now, Sudakshana did this black magic rituals just like Shiva told, and from that a huge towering fiery creature came out of it. This fiend started running towards Dwaraka. Remember, where is Kashi? In Uttar Pradesh, right? Where is Dwaraka? Now this is like 2 or 3. How many of you can recall a palm tree? It's fairly tall, right? Now this creature is like 2 or 3 palm tree tall, and it's fully made up of fire, and it's scorching everything in its path. And imagine such a fire that is cutting, just like in Hollywood movies, you see this light of laser that is cutting through and burning everything in the path. Imagine something like that. And now people all saw from the distance, and they all came, Krishna, Krishna, please save us. Remember, in Dwaraka, any problem, people first come to Krishna, please protect us. The minute Krishna understood this was Dakshinagni from Maheshwara, so the Sudarshana was waiting. Can I do any help? Please use me. So Sudarshana Chakra went, and now the Sudarshana Chakra was also hot. But it was so hot that this fiery creature was feeling the heat. It could not now handle the heat. Now in black magic, there is a rule. If you don't give the correct target, or if you do it against someone more powerful, like Krishna in this case, then what happens? It goes back and it shows its anger on the person who invoked it, because they did the wrong thing by invoking it. Because you are basically abusing that creature, right? You invoke a powerful being. Let's say you call the president of this country, and then you say like, hey, come on, you know what, I called you so that can you come and flush my toilet? That would be insulting, right? So you have to give a task that is befitting that creature. Now since that happened, the creature went back in anger, and it unleashed the fury on the citizens of Kashi, and it went straight and killed the priests who invoked its very presence, and the Sudakshana who invoked it. Now what happened? The Sudarshana Chakra was not done with its task. It went and it entered and burnt the rest of the city, which was part of this bad equation, and it came back to Krishna. Now, here is the important part in the story. It is very interesting to see what is happening, because this is the one that is going to tie why it is practically important for us to understand this story. Srimad Bhagavatam says, whoever listens to this heroic deeds of Krishna with concentration, is completely released from all their papas. Ya yenam Sravanen Martya Uttama Sloka Vikramam Samahito Va Shrunuyat Sarva Papaya Pramuchate. Sarva Papaya Vimuchate means like completely, whoever listens, all their papas are gone. Why should there be a falasruti in such a normal incident? Krishna has killed so many other people. Krishna has killed like countless asuras and things like that. Why is this falasruti being given? That should keep us pondering that this story has lot that is not meeting the eye. It is not what it just tells at the outset, that there are some layers of treasures that are beneath this. We need to mine them. Okay, now we will pause the story here and let's turn our gaze to how to apply this story in our personal lives. Now, the common thread we see, one of the most important common thread we see through this entire story is that of tamas. We all know there are three types of gunas: sattva, rajas and tamas. Sattva is that guna that gives us the clarity, that gives us the inner light, that gives us the understanding. Rajas is that kind of guna, that characteristic that makes us active, keeps us busy doing something. And tamas refers to denseness, darkness, dullness, lethargy, sluggishness, things like that. In the spiritual journey, the biggest baggage we all have is tamasic baggage. So if you and I have to climb, say, Mount Everest, climbing Mount Everest itself is like a big deal, right? Like it's not for the unprepared person. You have to prepare months and if not years. You have to go through special training, whatnot. Now, if I have a huge boulder attached to my back, what will happen? How can I climb that? Our tamasic baggage represents that boulder. Okay. So what is happening is, this tamasic baggage is something which we are wanting to handle. How do we do that? So the tamasic baggage in our mind or in our world, what does it represent? It represents the materialistic mindset we have that keeps peeling us away from our sattva and that adds to our ignorance and darkness. This is exactly what Paundraka displays, right? Now, for folks who are interested, I have pinned an article that is a companion article that goes with this talk. So, if you are interested, you could always go and look at those articles, and you could look at more material if you are interested in some sloka numbers and things like that. Now, what happens? This Paundraka Vasudeva was such a dull guy. He couldn't differentiate what is truth and flattery. Now, all of us are not too far from Paundraka Vasudeva also, because our Viveka, which is missing, is also something which is something that is amiss in this entire equation, right? We don't know what is the real nature, what is our real what is our real Swarupa, and what is the understood or perceived truth, because we operate on our senses, not on our, based on our Atma. So the falsity what Paundraka displays is not too far from where we are, which is the sad truth. And also Tamas also does one more thing. Tamas also attracts other characters that are very similar minded, right? So Tamas is like basically like you see Duryodhana. He gathered people around him like Dushasana, Shakuni, Karna, all evil minded people thinking the same way, right? Same way, Paundraka Vasudeva also did the same thing. He had the king of Kashi, the Kashi Raja, and it's the same story. We see the same story repeat with all asuras, right? We see Kamsa. We remember a few weeks ago, we looked at the spiritual angle of all the minions sent by Kamsa. If you have not heard that, you can always go to the YouTube channel, namesake YouTube channel, Sanatana Marivom. You can listen to those earlier talks. Now, another character exemplifies this tamas. See, tamas comes in different flavors, right? That's what we are also getting a lot of examples here. So, Sudakshina, what did he do? He had enough mental stamina to do tapas, to invoke Parameshwara. But what he did, instead of asking him, give me moksha, give me jnana, give me bhakti, what he wanted was, hey, I want to go and kill a guy, can you give me some power? Imagine, we saw this in one of the earlier talks also, we saw that how forgiveness is very important. And in this case, Sudakshina did not forgive Krishna because it was the act of supporting Paundraka that led to the death of Kashi Raja. So he was already the guilty party. But a tainted mind cannot understand all this. So it only throws a tantrum and says, I want this, I want that. So all it wanted was, Sudakshina's mind wanted was, hey, I want self-destruction. But that self-destruction is in the form of a benediction or a boon. Remember Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, all these guys, they even Ravana, all those guys, they wanted some complicated blessing, which was basically a death warrant. Right? So same way, Sudakshina also went and asked Maheshwara, hey, I want to kill that guy. And Shiva clearly told not to invoke this against a Brahmana. So what tamas does is, it accelerates the accumulation of papas. And more, so in the short term, it looks like I am having everything in my favor. Because I am getting everything in my favor, I am using all my punya to fund that. But once all the punya is gone, what is left? Only my papa karma phala that will fructify. So the interesting statement of Shiva is something which we can quickly take a look at. He says, Sada ishyati sankalpam abrahmanye prayojita iti Adishtas Tata Chakre Krishna Abhicharan Vrati. So he says, Sada Ishtati Sankalpam Abramanye Prayojita. So he says, don't use this weapon against a Brahmana. Now, what is a Brahmana? One who knows what is Brahman is a Brahmana. Now here, Krishna himself is Parabrahman. A fact which was already evident that despite the fan following of Kashi Raja and things like that, a false Vasudeva, Paundraka, was eliminated just like a swatting of an insect from the battlefield. So what happened? Sudakshana did not have the guts to fight a war, but instead he wanted to use black magic, backdoor to attack Krishna. So tamas, what happens, always accelerates the self-destruction process. Tamas also binds us to the basal side, our evil side. Sudakshana could have easily asked, hey, you know what? I'm fed up with life. What kind of life is this? My father was a great guy, but something happened. His head was cut off, and the head cut off from the battlefield was dropped in his city. How far is that? That itself should have told him that something different is happening there. But instead, what did he ask? I want to kill somebody. So it is important that we understand tamas is a very, very powerful entity. Second thing, we already saw this in detail. In fact, we had a separate talk on this, that Krishna gives mukti for even wrong reason. Now, what is wrong or right? Only in our mind is there. In Bhagavan's reason, any reason is good reason. This Paundraka was continuously thinking of Krishna. Although he was 100% tamasic in his thinking, he was non-stop meditating on Bhagavan Krishna. So if a patient is taking let's say a COVID medicine, he doesn't have to understand the biochemistry or the biology or whatever is behind the medicine. He doesn't even have to get it administered by a doctor. Even a nurse can administer it. That is fine. But it will still give the effect, right? Same way, when we turn our mind and attention to Bhagavan, however little, however partial we are, the fact that we are able to put our attention to Bhagavan, he says, okay, I will credit it. I don't know how many of you have had some nice good teachers back in the school. For some odd reasons, some teachers may have a special liking. So if you had just written some question only, if you had repeated, the teacher out of kindness will put instead of 5 marks question, they'll put half a mark and see somehow they'll, so or maybe you are like 38, the teacher out of kindness puts 40 and makes you pass mark. Right? In India, 40 was the pass mark back in the day. I don't know what it is today. So Bhagavan is also like that. He says like, okay, this person is making an effort. Like Kamsa was always thinking about Bhagavan only through what? Fear. Shishupala was thinking only through cursing and abusing Krishna. That was also deemed as a kind of upasana by Krishna because he was compassionate to even accept that. And then you have the different people who have taken different paths, like Putana who wanted to feed Krishna. Now the question is, in your mind and my mind, Putana was giving poison. In Bhagavan's point of view, look, she is coming with the sole intention, unwavering mind, only to feed me. What she feeds doesn't matter. So whatever she gives, I will accept. Look at the graciousness of Bhagavan. So when we approach Bhagavan and we say that I am, you know what, I am having so many problems in my life, I can't, office work, this, that, I got only like 10 minutes, I got only 2 minutes to think about you. I am only saying like morning only hurry, 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 hurry. Or I have got only a few minutes to think about you. Oh, okay, Bhagavan, I am like 24/7. Without me, clubhouse or spaces won't work. So I am here all the time. But when I go to sleep, I am thinking about you. 1 minute. Bhagavan still takes that into account. But the problem is we don't even get that much level of sincerity to Bhagavan. And that is why Bhagavan says in Bhagavad Gita to have avyabacharani bhakti. When you are doing the bhakti, don't waver at that point in time. Now it could be bhakti, jnana, whatever. So don't waver in whatever you are giving. So even if Shishupala gave only abuse, Bhagavan said, okay. Paundraka did like a photostat copy, like you can't look which is original, which is duplicate. He said, okay. Kamsa was doing all the abuse, but he was all the time thinking about Bhagavan. Now, you can say, I don't believe this. This is absolutely cooked up story, because how can Bhagavan take this as meditation? Now, that is where we have to go back and use Bhagavatam as the referential point, not our own mind. See, Bhagavatam says, let's look at that shloka. Bhagavatam says that Paundraka was non-stop meditating on Bhagavan, complemented by that meditation was his unbroken imitation in every step of his life. Sa Nityam Bhagavad Dhyana, in one of the slokas he says, Nityam Bhagavad Dhyana. Non-stop Bhagavan, 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 Bhagavan. Now what happens? You and I look at imitation. Bhagavan looked at, this fellow has taken so much pain to imitate me. But he imitated the wrong thing. What was the wrong thing he imitated? He imitated that he thought his body was the Bhagavan. So he gave so much effort and emphasis on imitating Krishna's body only. Just like that graceful teacher who says, okay, I'll give you a half mark, grace mark and make you pass, borderline pass. But Krishna doesn't do half mark borderline business and all. He says, I'll give you Sayujya Mukti only. You copied me, now you get to Vaikuntha and now you get a form just like me, you can be there. Go. So, all these gunas, even tamas, we were just talking about tamas, right? Even tamas can lead to Bhagavan, because all the gunas are in Bhagavan, but they don't define Bhagavan. Bhagavan is beyond the gunas. So, here we have a case where Bhagavan himself was worshipped by deception, by cheating, but Bhagavan didn't bother. He said, okay, take it. Now let's come to the theme of our, what is the connection between us? What is this stolen identity? What is my real identity? Why should I be bothered about Krishna story? It looks like that somebody took somebody's identity and the other one was establishing because of a fight. That's all it looks to us, right? If somebody took your social security number, Aadhaar card number, and all those things, now they have now started abusing it. Now you go and say prove in the court of law, look, I am the original guy, this is a fake, and you fight and you prove, and then you are on your way. But that is the limit of the material equivalence from this story. Here, the question we have been confronting is, why does Srimad Bhagavatam tell there is a Falashruti? What is Falashruti? It tells that if you remember the story, there is a reward. There is a Phala. What is this Phala? You will be liberated from all papas. Why should that be? Krishna went and killed so many asuras. Not every asura we are giving this Falashruti kind of business. That is why when we look at the Itihasa Puranas, we have to look at it with a big magnifying glass. Because there is one casual word, there is one casual, now to you and me it is casual because we are casually looking at it. But to people like Vyasa or Valmiki, nothing is casual. Everything is intentionally given. So two critical information is given in this story. One is the Falashruti, we already looked at it. The second key word we said was Nityam Bhagavad Dhyana. That's how Bhagavatam characterizes Paundraka. Though he was a fake, though he was a cheat, though he was a number one guy who was on the wrong side, Bhagavatam says he was doing Nityam Bhagavad Dhyana. He may be deluding that he was Vasudeva. That's fine. Same is our story, right? What is our real nature? Atman. Now you can call it Jivatma, there is this, that. See, one thing we have to understand. There are three key aspects, right? If you reduce all the philosophy in the world, and especially Sanatana Dharma, which is the most comprehensive one, you can reduce it to three entities. That is what I consider as myself as my real self, what we call as Atman, what we call as the Jivatman, because we are a Jiva, right? And then the second thing is everything else in the world which I can see and touch and feel, and things which I can't touch and feel, and everything in between, the Jagat. And the last one is Paramatma. Now, all acharyas have given their philosophies telling what is the equation between Jiva and Jagat, Jiva and Paramatma, Jagat and Paramatma. One said this Jagat is Maya. Another said no, Jagat is real, but you have to understand that Jivatma and Paramatma are two different entities. They are on two different pages. They are not the same. So different acharyas have given their opinions. We respect them all. But this is the sticking point for us. What acharyas are telling, let's say that you go into this Nobel laureates are gathered and they are all discussing about quantum science, quark and whatnot. Now when they are talking to each other, now these are like postdoc guys and they are talking about a very subtle topic. Now here comes a 3-year-old, 4-year-old child, and they are talking some advanced topics. Will it make sense to the child? They are talking some very complicated topic. Same is our situation when acharyas are talking about jivatma, paramatma, this, that. We are like, oh, some people have gone to the level to understand all these words, and you will come across them everywhere, even in clubhouse also. They will talk all these high-end things, complicated logic and whatnot. Well, if they can understand what they say themselves, that's great, good for them. But it is a fact that a lot of our knowledge is only bookish knowledge. It has not yet gone and had a transformation in our gunas and get expressed through our karma. So this imbibed knowledge, however, deep it may be, is still not experiential knowledge. So what happens? That makes us think that we don't know what is our real state. We all operate, we say, like, we may read some scripture and say, like, I am a jivatma, right? But do we actually live in our vyavaharika way that way? When we touch the fire, we are feeling ouch. But when the Ramana Maharishi had a surgery, he refused to take any medication to put him unconscious. He was watching the surgery as if you and I watch like National Geographic. No, like when you watch National Geographic, how one animal goes and rips the other animal, you watch in slow motion, right? He is able to do that. Are we in that level? No. But there are so many neo-Advaitins who even mock Shankara only, though they call themselves Advaitins. They come and talk every day. You will find them plenty everywhere. Now, I'm not critiquing anyone. I'm just saying that there is a gap between our bookish understanding, if at all we have any. So, unless I understand and realize and establish myself as an Atman, then only I am qualified to understand what is the connection between Atman and Paramatman, Atman and Jagat and all these things. So, that understanding is very critical. And since we don't have it, we don't know our real self. So, we operate under the false assumption that I am this body. Since I am operating under the false assumption that I am the body, so my real identity itself has been taken away. Now, in Krishna's case, only Paundraka imitated. But in our case, we are Mahaprabhus bigger than Krishna. See, Krishna gave moksha, right? Krishna gave moksha to Paundraka. No problem. But we are even bigger in one sense than even Krishna. We say we will give our real identity itself up, and we will assume this false identity that I am this body and I will undergo all this misery. Now, in a funny way, Krishna might be scratching his head. Who is the bigger giver? Is it me that I give moksha to Paundraka even for a false pretext, or these guys who are voluntarily giving up their real nature? So in this case, we have to understand the stolen identity is not actually really stolen. In our case, we voluntarily give it to our own vasanas, our own negativity. See, yesterday I repeatedly invoked a sloka so that we could ponder and meditate. Later on, I am planning to write a next article on that, so I couldn't help my mind going back to this sloka again and again. It is Bhagavad Gita chapter 7, sloka 15. There are four characters or different types of people who will never understand. Like in the clubhouse, you might have come across these atheist groups and this and that, and they will be non-stop. From morning, there was one group going on that I have never read any scripture. I am why I can't be Hindu, this and that. And there were so many people, many scholars, many people, knowledgeable people, everybody going and trying to convince these people. And a full day it is going on. I don't know if it is still going on. Maybe it is. But the thing is that these people don't understand that. So what is Krishna telling in this? Namam duskritano mudaha prapadyante naradama. So he says, this evil thinking people, duskritano, krita action, duskrita bad action. Who do this bad action? He identifies four adjectives. Mudaha. We will probably take this separately another day, but just at a passing comment, we need to look at, because we need to understand why we are losing our identity. That is very important. Mudaha. Who is a muda? See, there are so many definitions. If you go to different acharyas, they will give you in-depth analysis for mudaha. In fact, our situation is, Sri Krishna tells in one place in Bhagavad Gita, we are not even mudaha. We are vimudaha. Visheshena mudaha. We are specialist, PhD, postdoc, Nobel Prize multiple times in muda. So that is the level we are. And why is that happening? Because we don't have the focus on what is Sat and Asat. So a simple understanding is, we can take Adi Shankara's definition of what is Viveka, and the exact opposite of it is Moda. If you can differentiate between Sat and Asat, you are having Viveka. If you don't, what do? You can say you are Aviveki. In other words, we can say Moda. Now, what happens to this person who is Mudaha? He does Prapadyante Naradama. Now, Prapadyante means like completely given into, surrendered, like I am totally enslaved. Nara Adama. Adama means lowest level. Why? Because of this inability to differentiate, my mind goes again and again and again stuck in the lower basal vasanas. And once I get into that, like say these guys who get hooked onto any addiction, like drugs or stealing or anything for that matter, they get trapped there. Why did they get trapped there? First stage was mudaha. But again and again they go digging their grave deeper. That is Prapadyante Naradama. Then what happens? There is a third element that Krishna introduced. Mayaya apakrita jnanaha. What he says is, Maya. Maya means what? We already saw that, for not looking at what is right as right and imagining something else. Like if there is a mirage in the desert, you think it is water. So it's not correct understanding. Correct? Now some Maya may be like very simple. We can't live without Maya. So when you go and look at the sky, it is blue. Now, is the blue real nature of the sky? No. But you and I have to live under the assumption because it is blue. If you say sky is not blue and the sky is, that is an illusion, then people will start wondering like, what is this guy smoking? Now, the third level what Krishna says is, Mayaya Apahrita jnanaha. Now what happens? I lose my viveka, then I go to my nara adamaha. I am not only nara adamaha, but also prabhadyante. I am like totally surrendered to that, completely enslaved to that vasanas. And then I go to the next step. The next step, now Krishna says these are four categories of people. That is one way of looking. But another way of looking is this is a slippery spiral. Now, the reason why I am looking at in as a different stages, the answer is in the next sloka, which we are not going to go today. But the answer is definitely in the 7th chapter, 16th sloka. If you look at it, you will get to know that that is also a sliding scale. That is also a spectrum. Now, what happens? I am now in a state where my knowledge is completely stolen. Apahrita. It's totally devoid. Now, what happens to the last step? I go in the reverse direction. I am now stuck in the slippery slope. I am going faster and faster in that reverse direction, and I lose complete control. And then I go to this level called Asuram Bhavamashitaha. He says like Asuram. I become thinking like I go to the stinking level of an Asura. Now again we are not going to go into the detail. You want to know what is Asuric mindset, you can look at the 16th chapter. Bhagavan Krishna has gone so much in painstakingly in detail. He tells so much about this negative state of mind. It is even shocking that such a huge list exists. But he has given that list not for us looking at our neighbor and say, hey, look, this fellow is that. It is not for the other fellow. It is for finding our own tamo guna, our own negativity that is lurking in some corner of our mind. Now, it doesn't mean that all of us have some negativity. It's not an insinuation. It is just a fact that we don't know what kind of vasanas we are all carrying. So, we were looking at Bhagavan Krishna's incident of Paundraka Vasudeva, and then we quickly jump to Bhagavad Gita to get an insight into the mindset of this tamoguna. How does it go? Now we already know our mind, what is the way we are looking at it? I, me, myself. That is the lowest vision we can have, but that is what we hold on to. Second problem, what we do, we think that we are this body. We are not the Atman. And the third thing, what we do, to add to this materialistic mindset and narrow vision and all those things, we throw one more bonus. We look at all our aspirations are only degraded materialistic misrepresentations. And since we have done to that level, then we get caught, just like a caterpillar spins a web around itself and makes a cocoon. Now, it eventually comes out of it as a butterfly. But in our case is, we put ourselves this cocoon of samsara, and then from one cocoon we go into another cocoon. We go to another cocoon. We go to another cocoon. That is the difference between an insect and us. Insect go into the cocoon and they want to come out of it through metamorphosis. But we go into the cocoon of samsara, which we have only self-created, but again we are going in this downward spiral. So that is the question we need to ask. So in case of Paundraka Vasudeva, he was only imitating and stealing Krishna's identity, and Krishna said, come on, I am the original, you are the duplicate. No problem. Right? But in our case, we are the opposite. We voluntarily surrender our real nature because Shastras are screaming from the top of their voice that your real nature is not that of a body. You are not the manas. You are not the prana. You are not buddhi. You are not the wealth you are accumulating. To a miser, what is the most important thing? He doesn't care about anything. And just for context, because we are talking about a miser, right? What is the dosha Arjuna says that he is infected by? Karpanya dosha. So we have to understand that what is that karpanya dosha. In our case also we have the same thing. We are voluntarily going in the reverse gear, giving up our identity, and we are thinking that we are not even, we all know that we are jiva. At least in colloquially, we all know we are jiva, but we don't think beyond the literal word jiva. That's all. We don't think that if I am a jiva, then I need to feel it every single waking moment of my life, right? If I come and ask you, what is your name? I go to Kicha and say, hey, what is your name? He says, my name is Kicha. He is sleeping deeply. In the middle of the night, I kind of shake him up and I say, hey, who are you? He says, I am Kicha. So that is deeply ingrained, right? Because I'm not saying that Kicha is always thinking like that. I'm just saying, just like that, we are deeply knowing that I am this body. We don't have the same level of consciousness that I am a Jivatma. And when we come to that, then only we have graduated that school. Now we can go and attend the discussion what these acharyas are telling. Now he is saying Jivatma and Paramatma, this is the level, that is the level. You can go and experience it yourself. Otherwise, it is only like some two Nobel professors, laureates are talking some complicated topic, and I am like a toddler throwing a tantrum there, creating a racket. That's all. So, before we go and graduate ourselves to understanding and elevating and following what these acharyas are saying, the uniform message for all of us is reclaim and restore your original identity that we are a Jivatma. Now, when you remember you are an Atma, then things that affect your life, bad things should not shake you up. There are tragedies that may come, but you learn to understand that, hey, you don't tolerate the tragedy. You look through the tragedy and look into the heart of the tragedy and see what is your real nature. You don't get swayed by all the good things that keep happening and start going on your own mental trip that, hey, I am invincible, all great things happen. Funded by your past punya, you are getting it. Don't worry about it. Now, if you know that you are the jiva, you are going to fold your hands and you are going to look at all the fun things that are happening to you, and you are going to look at it and say, I am not all this. These pleasures and pain don't touch me. And that is the identity we have all lost. And now you can go and approach this once you understand your real nature. Now you can go in any path. Sanatana Dharma gives you that flexibility, that option that you can go in any path. You can go in Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, all start blending and start adding up. So the most important thing is what we need to understand is this key identity. Who is this person who is undergoing all these modifications? And then Sanatana Dharma, when it says, it makes sense. It says, Akashat patitam doyam yadagacchati sagaram. Just like water that is falling everywhere, that is rain, it may take different paths, but it always goes to the ocean. Same way, we may have different packages, vasana bundles and things like that, but despite all our packages, ultimately you and I are a jiva, and that Jiva has some equation with Paramatma. Now, the other interesting thing is we have to understand that Shastra is given all these insights to us. But ultimately, you and I have to realize it. You have to realize, I have to realize. So, Krishna, what did he do when the false identity took it over? He went and fought it. He put an end to Paundraka Vasudeva. What is our situation? Our ahamkara, our vasanas, all are robbing our real identity. And they are pulling us and pushing us into deep samsara. Now, high time. Now you go and look at why this particular episode has a falashruti in Srimad Bhagavatam and why it tells us it will liberate from all kinds of papas. Once you know you are a Jivatma, you know the real nature of Atma, and that Atma is beyond the gunas. Krishna says, right? You can't cut it, you can't dry it, you can't roast it, you can't wet it. Same way, the Papa and Punya will not be able to touch your real nature, Atma. But what I am thinking is, I am the body. So, since I am the body and I am the agent, so all things that were done with that agency of the body, you are also liable. You are also going to enjoy the pleasure and pain, the Papa and Punya done with that agency. But once you and I realize that we are the Atma, then we get out of this. And now that is going to be a battle. That is a battle. Do you think it is going to happen like tomorrow morning you close your eyes and say, okay, I am Atma. From today I will think I am Atma. No. We will have to fight our vasanas. We will have to fight our ahankara. We will have to fight our lower tendencies. And in that fight, we need Bhagavan's guidance. We need Acharya's guidance. We need Bhagavan's guidance, and it is there every single step of the way. Oh, how can I be so sure about it? What is the story we are looking at? Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavan in the towards the end of his life, in the 11th skanda, he says, his presence, his swarupa, his energy, everything is infused into Srimad Bhagavatam. So if you understand that Bhagavan is already there, now you go and read a Bhagavatam story or hear somebody tell a Bhagavatam story or explain the details of all these things like what we are trying to do now, what happens? Bhagavan is there right beside you to fight that ahankara, fight that lower energies. So you and I should be charged up when we listen to this Paundraka Vasudeva story, not looking like what they showed in a TV serial, some one guy with some cardboard hand and things like that and trying to do. It's not like that. There is a lot of hidden meaning and message in this Paundraka Vasudeva story. May Bhagavan Krishna give us that much buddhi to understand and help us to give that much interest to go and look at these kind of stories. Let him give us at least that much buddhi that we should not brush it aside. Oh, I know the story. What is the big deal? I know. A story that should have taken 2 minutes, you have taken 1 hour plus to explain all this. Why? Instead of giving that kind of ahankara based thinking, let Bhagavan give us the right thinking to make us ask questions. Why is there a falashruti here? Why is Bhagavatam saying that Paundraka himself, the lowest, the tamasic character, is doing Nityam Bhagavad Dhyanam? Why? What is the context? May Bhagavan give us the buddhi to have as many duels with our vasanas, so that we can work on resetting our gunas to become more and more sattvic. And once the real battle is to fix these gunas. We may hear the knowledge, we may have all this information in our head, but if there is no guna transformation, that knowledge is only a burden. That knowledge is not going to affect anything. Now, once there is a guna transformation, it will obviously start reflecting in our karma. And that karma again is going to start driving it back to our gunas. So, in that way, we have started a positive cycle thinking about Bhagavan Sri Krishna. And once again, I am really deeply thankful and humbled by Bhagavan's grace that if a guy could just copy, he would give his full blessing to him. I'm pretty sure that even if we do the same Paundraka way, we can also achieve that. But here is the last point I want to say. See, a lot of people argue, even I used to argue, at least for debate purpose, why should I follow all these things? Why can't I do whatever I want? Ultimately, if everything is going to go to Bhagavan at Pralaya, why should I even bother about it? Here is the samadhana for that. It will not work that way. Because we will be in this samsara cycle stuck forever and ever and ever. Our goal is not to go and reform this world. This is the land that had avatars like Rama and Krishna. Look at the state today. Now, does that mean that I stop doing what I should? No. We should do what we are supposed to do, our swadharma, at any cost. Because by doing swadharma continuously, we get purified, our mind starts getting more and more sattvic because we follow our swadharma. Doesn't matter what it is, but just follow your swadharma. So, Bhagavan Krishna's blessing has given the assurance that all we have to do is follow our swadharma. And let us be emboldened, cheered up in this uphill battle that Bhagavan is backing us to the hilt as long as we don't tuck our tail and surrender to our ahankara and vasanas. The minute we turn our back to ahankara and start embracing Bhagavan, his teachings, his glory, the vasanas, gunas, ahankara, all have no power. It depends on which direction we are going. Kathopanishad says that we have only one choice. The choice between two. Are we choosing the path of Shreyas that leads us to Bhagavan? Or are we pulled to the lower path of pleasures, pain and pleasure in the path of prayers? That choice is ours, and let's begin in this wonderful journey with renewed vigor and Bhagavan's blessing that Bhagavan is there to help us fight in this battle of our stolen identity. Let us remember every time from now on when you think about Paundraka Vasudeva, it is not about that Paundraka Vasudeva, it is all about you and me. Let us remember that again and again And remember this glorious incident of Shri Krishna to guide us to his lotus feet. Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Krishna, Har Har Mahadev.